The 7-year-old girl's handprint on Henry Ryder's $3,000 suit wasn't red from paint. He knew that the moment she whispered, "Please, mister, I need your help." It was 11:47 p.m. in downtown Chicago. Henry was about leaving his law firm after closing a merger worth $40 million. And now he stood face to face with a child whose palm was pressed against his chest, leaving a crimson mark that would change everything. "Where are your parents?" Henry's voice came out sharper than he intended. Years of courtroom precision made him forget how to talk to children. "Mommy sent me." The little girl's brown eyes were filled with tears. She said to find Henry Ryder. She said lawyers like you don't lose. Henry Ryder was many things. Harvard law graduate, youngest partner at Whitmore Associates. The attorney billionaires called when they needed someone destroyed legally. But a babysitter? Never. "I'm calling the police," he said, pulling out his phone. "No!" Her scream echoed through the empty entrance. "Not the police. My dad is with them." "Your dad?" The girl reached into her small purple backpack, the kind with unicorns and rainbows that belonged at a sleepover. Not on a dark Chicago street at midnight. What she pulled out made Henry's blood run cold. A evidence bag, a real one, with a chain of custody label filled out in careful handwriting. Inside was a tie clip, expensive gold, with the Illinois State Police insignia. "His," she whispered. "My dad is a police." Henry stared at this child with urgent curiosity. "What's your name?" Jasmine Thornton. "And before you ask, I'm 7 3/4. I can read at a 5th grade level. And my mommy is Dr. Elizabeth Thornton. She works at Northwestern Memorial Hospital." Her voice cracked. "And I think she has gone to heaven." The words hit Henry like a freight train. "Show me your hands," he said quietly. Jasmine held up both palms. The blood was already drying, flaking at the edges. I tried to stop the bleeding. Mommy taught me pressure points and how to call 911, but he took the phone. He said accidents happen all the time to doctors who work late shifts. Her voice was eerily calm, the kind of calm that comes from shock. He said I should go to bed and forget what I saw. That's when I climbed out my window. Henry knelt down, his expensive suit forgotten. For the first time in 15 years of practicing law, his hands shook. "Jasmine, I need you to tell me very carefully. Is your mother alive right now?" "I don't know." Tears finally broke through that unnatural calm. There was so much blood, and she had stopped breathing. Henry's mind raced. Protocol said call the police. But protocol didn't account for tie clips with state police insignias or children who spoke about evidence chains at midnight. "Who is your daddy, Jasmine?" Lieutenant Detective Roger Thornton. She said it without emotion now. "Mommy's been trying to leave him for 8 months, but he didn't let her go." She went to his police station twice to report, but the chief called it marital disagreements. Jasmine's little hands clenched. "Mommy said they protect their own. That's why she needed me to find you." Henry stood up slowly, his 6'2" frame casting a shadow over the small girl. 20 years ago, he'd been a public defender who believed in justice. Then he'd defended the wrong person, lost the case, watched an innocent man go to prison. He'd sworn never to lose again, never to be outspent, outmaneuvered. He'd sold his soul to corporate law where the guilty always won because they could afford him. But this child was offering him something he'd forgotten existed, a case where the evidence mattered more than the bank account. "Jasmine, I'm going to ask you something very important, and I need you to be completely honest." "Can you do that?" She nodded, those 2 old eyes fixed on his. "Did your mother tell you to come to me specifically? Did she say my name?" "Yes." Jasmine pulled out a newspaper clipping from her backpack. A profile piece from Chicago Magazine. Henry Ryder, the attorney who never loses. "There's more," Jasmine whispered. "Mommy has a storage unit, number 347 at Secure Lock on West Madison. She gave me the key 3 days ago." She pressed a small silver key into Henry's palm. "She said if she didn't come home, I should take you there. She said there's enough evidence to destroy him, but only if it reaches someone he can't touch." Henry looked at the key, at the evidence bag, at this 7-year-old girl who'd turned herself into a witness and a courier because the system had failed her mother. "Jasmine, I'm going to help you, but first we need to make sure you're safe." "My building has security." "No, he has friends everywhere." Mommy said trust no one with a badge or anyone who asks for ID. Henry thought fast. It's okay. We're going to go somewhere secure, and then I'll call someone I trust, a federal prosecutor I went to law school with. Someone outside the Chicago PD. And my mommy? The question Henry had been dreading. We're going to find out, he said quietly. But Jasmine, I need you to prepare yourself for… I know. Her voice went small again. I know she might be with the angels, but Mr. Ryder, even if she is, my daddy should not get away with it. Please give her justice. Tears streamed down Jasmine's face now. Henry made a decision that would either save this child or destroy his career. Come on, my car is just around the corner. And Jasmine? Your mother was right about one thing. I don't lose ever. Henry took Jasmine to one of his apartment, one with privacy, and was not attached to his public figure. He then made a call. Nora, I need a favor, a big one. I have a 7-year-old witness to a murder committed by a Chicago PD detective. I have video evidence, and there's more in a storage unit. I need federal protection and a warrant, and I need it now before he finds us. Silence on the other end. Then, Henry, if you're screwing with me, I'm not. This is real, and if we don't move fast, this child is going to disappear just like her mother did. Where are you? He gave her the address. Don't move. I'm calling my boss, then I'm calling the FBI. Sit tight. I'll have agents there in 30 minutes. Henry hung up and looked at Jasmine. We're going to get through this. In 30 minutes, federal agents will be here. They'll protect you, and we're going to make sure your father pays for what he did. Jasmine nodded, but her eyes were distant. Ryder, can I tell you something? Anything. I'm not scared for me anymore. I'm scared I'll forget Mommy's voice. It's only been a few hours, and already I can't remember exactly how she sounded when she said goodnight. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Henry's throat tightened. He thought about all the legal briefs in his office, all the contracts and depositions that had seemed so important just hours ago. None of it mattered, not compared to this. Jasmine, do you know what your mother did when she spent 8 months gathering evidence? She protected me. More than that, she made sure you'd never forget her. Every piece of evidence she collected, every plan she made. That's her voice. She's still talking to you, still fighting for you, and as long as we finish what she started, you'll never really lose her voice. Jasmine wiped her eyes. You promise you won't let him win, even if it's hard? Even if he has other cops helping him? I promise. Your mother didn't choose me by accident. She chose someone who can't live with losing. And I won't start now. The minutes ticked by. Henry made coffee. Terrible coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. But it was something to do. Jasmine sat on his couch, small and quiet, the purple backpack on her lap like a shield. At 1:14 a.m., 3 black SUVs pulled up to the building. Nora Fitzgerald arrived with 4 FBI agents and a child protection specialist. She was 42, black, brilliant, and she took one look at Jasmine's bloody hands and Henry's grim face and understood, immediately, that this wasn't a drill. For the next hour, Jasmine told her story. Not once, but 3 times, each retelling consistent, detailed, unflinching. The FBI agents recorded every word. The child protection specialist sat beside her, offering tissues and quiet support. When it ended, Nora's expression was carved from ice. Jesus Christ, Henry. That's Detective Roger Thornton. He testified in 3 of my cases. Credible witness, decorated officer. At 2:30 a.m., they went to the storage unit. The FBI breached it like they were raiding a drug den. Swift, efficient, documented. Inside Unit 347 was Elizabeth Thornton's legacy. 47 folders, each labeled and dated. Medical records showing 12 trips to the ER over 2 years, each with injuries consistent with domestic violence. Copies of police reports that had mysteriously disappeared from official files. Bank statements showing Roger had drained their joint accounts and opened credit cards in Elizabeth's name. Phone recordings of arguments, threats, promises to make her disappear just like the others. And in a locked box at the back, 5 driver's licenses, 5 women, all reported missing over the past 12 years in districts where Roger had worked. All cases unsolved. Oh my God, Nora breathed. He's not just a wife killer. He's a serial killer. The FBI moved fast. By 4 a.m., they had arrest warrants. By 4:30 a.m., they had Roger in custody, pulled from his bed in a dawn raid that was caught on body cameras. By 5 a.m., 4 other Chicago PD officers, including Kyle, his partner, were in handcuffs for obstruction of justice. Elizabeth's body was found at 5:42 a.m., exactly where Roger had left it, in their garage, wrapped in a body bag and ready to be buried. Insulin overdose, just like he'd planned, but the medical examiner found defensive wounds, skin under her fingernails, and bruising consistent with a struggle. Roger's perfect murder was falling apart. Through it all, Jasmine sat in a conference room at the FBI field office, wrapped in a blanket that was too big, drinking hot chocolate that a kind agent had brought her. Henry never left her side. At 6:17 a.m., as the sun rose over Chicago, Nora came into the room. Her face was drawn, exhausted, but there was something like triumph in her eyes. "We got him," she said quietly. "We got all of them. Roger, Kyle, 2 others who helped cover up his previous crimes. And Henry, you need to see this." She handed over a folder. Elizabeth left a letter. It was in the storage unit, sealed, marked, "To be opened only if I'm gone." Henry opened it with trembling hands. Elizabeth's handwriting was neat, controlled, the writing of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "To Mr. Ryder, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Thornton, and if you're reading this, I'm dead. My husband, Detective Roger Thornton, killed me. I know how that sounds. A hysterical wife making accusations against a decorated cop. That's why I spent 8 months documenting everything. That's why I prepared. I've left evidence that should be enough to convict him. That's why I told my daughter to find you. I'm leaving everything to Jasmine, my life insurance, my savings, my evidence. Mr. Ryder, if you're reading this, I'm trusting you with my daughter's life. Not just her physical safety, but her future. Don't let her grow up thinking the monsters won. Don't let her grow up thinking justice is impossible. Show her that the system can work. Show her that even when it's broken, there are still people who will fight to fix it. Please tell my precious Jasmine I loved her more than my own life. Dr. Elizabeth Thornton. October 11th, 2024. Henry folded the letter carefully, his vision blurred. 3 days. Elizabeth had written this 3 days before her death, knowing it was coming, preparing for it like a general preparing for a final battle. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Henry didn't represent Jasmine officially. He was a witness, and federal prosecutors handled the case. But he was there every day, sitting in the front row, a silent presence that said, "I'm watching. I'm making sure this is done right." 3:26 Roger Thornton's defense tried everything. They claimed Elizabeth was unstable. They claimed Jasmine had been coached, but they couldn't explain the insulin in his patrol car. And they definitely couldn't explain why a 7-year-old girl would invent such a detailed, consistent story if it wasn't true. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, 5 counts of second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and abuse of authority. When the verdict was read, Jasmine sat between Henry and her aunt, Elizabeth's sister who'd flown in from California. She didn't cry, didn't cheer, she just squeezed Henry's hand and whispered, "Mommy won." Roger was sentenced to life without parole. Kyle and the other officers received 15 years each. The Chicago PD underwent a massive internal investigation that resulted in 17 forced retirements and a complete overhaul of their domestic violence protocol. But the biggest change was smaller, more personal. 6 months after the trial, Henry stood in family court again. This time, he wasn't a witness. He was a petitioner. "Your Honor," he said, his voice steady despite the nervousness churning in his gut. "I'm petitioning for permanent guardianship of Jasmine Thornton." The judge, a woman named Patricia Holloway, looked at him with skepticism. "Mr. Ryder, you're a corporate attorney with a 90-hour work week. You've never been married, have no children, and no experience raising a traumatized child. Why should I grant this petition when Jasmine has a perfectly suitable aunt in California who's willing to take her?" Henry had prepared for this. He'd prepared for this like he prepared for every case that mattered. Because Jasmine asked me to, and because her mother trusted me with her life. The judge raised an eyebrow. "That's not a legal argument." "No, Your Honor, it's not. But here's what is. In the past 6 months, I've reduced my caseload by 60%. I've converted my apartment's spare room into a bedroom decorated with unicorns. Jasmine picked them out herself. I've hired a child psychologist who visits twice a week. I've enrolled Jasmine in a school 3 blocks from my office so I can walk her there every morning. He pulled out a folder. I have statements from her teachers, her therapist, and yes, from her aunt in California, who agrees that Jasmine is thriving in Chicago and should remain in the environment where she feels safest. The judge opened the folder, scanning the documents. Mr. Ryder, do you understand what you're taking on? This child witnessed her mother's murder. She has PTSD, anxiety, nightmares. She'll need years of therapy. She'll need someone who doesn't just provide for her financially, but emotionally. I know. Henry's voice was quiet now. Your Honor, I'm not claiming to be perfect. But I'm claiming to be someone who will never give up on her. Someone who will be there at 2 a.m. when the nightmares come. Someone who will fight every battle she needs fought and teach her how to fight her own battles when she's ready. The judge looked past Henry to where Jasmine sat in the gallery, wearing a purple dress with her hair in 2 neat braids that Henry had learned to do from YouTube videos at midnight. Jasmine, the judge said, can you come up here for a moment? Jasmine walked forward, her small purple backpack, the same one from that night, slung over her shoulder. She'd refused to get a new one. It's part of my story, she'd told Henry. Mommy and me, we're both in this backpack. Jasmine, do you want to live with Mr. Ryder? Yes, ma'am. Why? Your aunt loves you very much. You could have a big house in California, a normal family. Jasmine looked back at Henry, then at the judge. Because Henry loves me and he's a very good man. And have you been happy with him? Jasmine thought about this carefully. Not happy like before when Mommy was here, but safe. And Mommy always said safe was the most important thing. The judge's expression softened. She looked at Henry for a long moment, then back at Jasmine. Mr. Ryder, I'm granting temporary guardianship for 1 year. During that time, you'll submit to monthly home visits, continue Jasmine's therapy, and prove to me that this isn't just a savior complex. If, at the end of that year, Jasmine is still thriving, we'll revisit permanent guardianship. Henry let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me yet. Raising a child is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Raising a traumatized child is exponentially harder. If you fail, I won't, Henry said. I don't lose, Your Honor. It's the only thing I'm really good at. 1 year later, the permanent guardianship was granted without contest. By then, Henry had transformed from a corporate shark into something he never thought he'd be, a father. He learned to braid hair, pack lunches, and identify the difference between a nightmare and a night terror. He learned that I'm fine usually meant I'm not fine, but I don't want to burden you. He learned that sometimes the best thing he could do was simply sit beside Jasmine in silence while she drew pictures of her mother, keeping the memories alive. He also learned that becoming a father didn't mean being perfect. It meant showing up every single day, 5 years after that night. Jasmine, now 12 years old, stood at a podium in a legislative hearing room. She wore a purple blazer, her signature color, and her hair was in those same 2 braids. But her eyes were no longer too old for her face. They were the eyes of a child who'd survived and was learning to thrive. My name is Jasmine Thornton, she said, her voice clear and steady. When I was 7, I watched my father murder my mother. My mother taught me that even when the system is broken, there are still people willing to fight to fix it. She paused, looking at the legislators. I'm here today to support House Bill 2847, the Evidence Protection Act. This bill would create secure, anonymous channels for domestic violence victims to document abuse and store evidence with third-party advocates. It would protect that evidence from being destroyed or suppressed, even when the abuser has law enforcement connections. The bill passed 3 weeks later. The governor signed it into law with Jasmine and Henry standing behind him at the ceremony. Jasmine was now 17. She walked into Henry's law office. She's here for her summer internship, learning the law from the man who saved her life. Henry? She still calls him Henry, not Dad. They'd talked about it years ago, and she'd said, I had a dad. He was a monster. I had a father who gave me DNA. You're Henry. You're the person who chose me, who fought for me. That's better than Dad. He looked up from his laptop. What's up, kid? I got the acceptance letter. Columbia Law School, full scholarship. Henry's face broke into a rare, genuine smile. That's my girl. Your mother would be so proud. Jasmine set down her backpack. Henry, do you think I can do it? Be a lawyer like you? Fight for people who can't fight for themselves? Jasmine, you've been fighting since you were 7 years old. Law school is just going to teach you the rules of the fight. You already know why it matters. She smiled, but it was bittersweet. I still miss her. Is that weird? After 10 years? It would be weird if you didn't. Henry stood up, walking around his desk. Your mother gave you something no one can take away. She gave you proof that love means sacrifice, that protecting the people you care about is worth any cost. And Jasmine, you honor her every single day by refusing to let what happened to her happen to anyone else. Jasmine hugged him. Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me when I was just some random kid with a bloody handprint on your suit. Henry hugged her back. You were never random. Your mother made sure of that. She picked me specifically because she knew I'd see in you what she saw. Someone worth fighting for. They stood there for a moment. The man who never lost and the girl who refused to be defeated.